Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sons and Daughters of Liberty. Give me a few moments while I share this link, and we'll get started. But tonight, I think we'll talk about something a bit different. You know, as I've started my little new project, working on the magazine, editing, and writing some articles. Just happened to be writing one particular article for a section, and it kind of reminded me of something about awareness and observation. You know, it had something to do with a law that, last time I had checked, I knew it was, there are certain laws in place for people that want to be good Samaritans. Basically, with that, certain states have a law in place where you could actually be held liable for being a good Samaritan. If you help a person and it further causes injuries, or they may deem it results in a person's death. I was talking to one of my friends. He said they had thought they had changed it, and it was dealing with that scenario. It was in for what would you do? I don't want to give away what it is. You guys will be able to read it come beginning of next month. But it was a scenario, and when you're dealing with scenarios, it's about awareness, observation. And I started thinking more and more. I want to get more about it. Where does it all apply? We all know pretty much in everyday life it applies to everything. You know, we drive this to and from work. We take the same road every day. We know when something's out of place, or we know that if we get some rain, that road might flood at a certain point. So we know all these telltale signs about that road. We know landmarks. We might not pay attention to the signs. We know when we see that house, you know, our turn's up ahead. Or when we see that house, we know there's a real sharp curve coming. Those all situational awareness and observation, And it applies just not to our everyday life and around the world, but it also applies to the things we do online, which, not too many people talk about. And they are important factors because it goes into, sometimes we don't realize it. I'm kind of mentioned a little bit about this on a different topic, how we see and hear more things than we actually perceive and catch. That same idea applies to when we're surfing the internet, when we're on social media platforms. We're taking in more than what we actually acknowledge. Just like when you walk into a bar or a bowling alley, pool hall, whatever it may be, you're taking in everything. Everything you catch in your peripheral, and you might not be intimately aware that you've taken this in, but the situation comes where something happens. And this is where trigger. Now, trigger doesn't just apply to words. Objects can trigger as well. Emotions can trigger. Sometimes you might just get that feeling that something's going to happen, and it triggers the things that you've seen. You might not have caught the exit when you walked in, but out of your peripherals, you had seen it, and your subconscious took a mental note of it, and you would actually recognize and recall that the exit's over here, or a group of people that that just happened to be the rowdy ones you had to walk by and you didn't pay them no mind because they didn't register at that time. These things occur all the time. Like for me, first thing I walk into, when I walk into the building, the first thing I'm looking for, exits, just random things like certain aisles, making mental notes. Okay, this aisle has towels, blankets, okay. That's through observation and being aware. Just like we are aware of what we find on every social media platform. We are aware of when we get that one follower that just, for some odd reason, doesn't seem to belong. It's like instant warnings. So why is this person? And it has to do with, and it takes time to build these skills as well. It's just not something that you're used to because we're so caught up in things. We're taught to ignore our inner voice. The things when when we get that feeling, we've been taught to ignore those things, and they're very important things. Through awareness and observation. When we start watching certain things, people what they tweet, we learn a little bit about them. On many levels, we learn a lot of things about them. I mean, sometimes you can catch their emotional state, their perspectives on things. And these are the very same things that I'm pointing out, that these data mining companies and alphabet agencies, they all know these things. How they program their algorithms, they program them the same way to pinpoint on these things. They also know how to use them to trigger. Just like I think it was a couple weeks ago, I did a video and I mentioned about images, memes. Those are trigger objects if used properly. Because most people see, it's a catchy image, read whatever's on it, but they don't pay attention to the image as a whole. Well, the problem is, you might not be paying attention to the image as a whole, but you're taking that in, so your subconscious mind is taking in that information, the things that you didn't catch. So situational awareness and observation on the internet is very important. It also, as you work on it, allows you to see things. You can pretty much discern fact from fiction. What's real, what's fake. We're living in a day and age where we've gotten away from living on our instincts, listening to ourselves. It is a natural instinct. It's actually a natural, in some ways, what's the word I'm looking for? A safety mechanism. It's meant, in a sense, it's there to protect us. It's like an alarm bell, that big flashing exit sign, or the big flashing danger sign, except for it's like a feeling. When you feel it, it instantly focus your attention on it. And, we get caught up with so much stuff. That's why I always say the stuff that's trending is usually a distraction. It's meant to pull people away from what's really going on. Because it does. When everybody's retweeting the same thing, everybody's talking about the same thing, you see it over and over and over. So therefore, it's has that much more of a psychological impact. Now, these are the things that I'm aware of. These are the things that I observe, these are the things that I know through other teachings and things I've experienced in my own life. Sometimes we have to step outside and give things a break. For me, lately, the breaks of working on the magazine, because now it's allowing me to work and remember some things that I had forgotten, like how much of a pain in the ass it can be to work on stuff like that. It's not been a pain in the ass. Actually, everything's moving quite efficiently, which is a little bit scary. But why is it moving more efficiently this time than the last time I did a magazine, published it? Well, because I have all that experience and all that knowledge. Just like the reason I'm bringing it up, because when it comes to May 1st, where I go to upload it and publish it, something I haven't been doing with my YouTube channel is the meta tags. See, I knew all about meta tags before I even started on YouTube, because I had to use them, the magazine. Well, what is a meta tag? Let's keep it in the simplest form. Meta tags are simple. They're triggers. They're meant to catch the algorithm, catch the search engines, so it pops up to the audience that's looking for keywords. The more meta tags you use, the wider the audience you get, the more you know. Truthfully, sometimes you want to have a thesaurus at hand. It's play on words. Knowing, okay, this word, how many other words mean the same thing? And we see that every day in the world around us, on the internet, everywhere. We see here of late how people want to manipulate words, drop a word. Immigrant, illegal immigrant. We see them dropping the word illegal, saying immigrant. Therefore, by doing so, they've changed the very meaning of it. But nobody calls them out on it. And when they do, nobody wants to believe it, because they're saying, well, they're saying immigrant, so they're not lying to you. And you're right, they're not lying to you. They're actually telling the truth, because they chose to manipulate the word, drop it. These are the little things that you catch when you're aware and when you're observing. Everybody does it. Everybody has their mannerisms. And you know when they change something abruptly that something's off. What's the change? Why the change? You know when you're reading an article that certain things don't seem right. Something don't feel right when you're reading it. Why? Something has triggered you. Something in that article has triggered you to question something or to want to look deeper into it. You may find that maybe that person got something wrong. Or maybe that person missed something very important, because at that time they didn't see it. Everybody's different. That's why I titled this Situational Awareness and Observation. Because what we have to rely on is, like all things in life, is our experiences. How well do we listen to ourselves when we feel something's off, not right, or we feel an emotion that shouldn't be there for no reason? Do you question it? Do you actually look into why that emotion was risen up from the article or from the video you were watching? But see, it's these little things that allow you to learn to cultivate that skill of listening to yourself. It's important, especially with how much we are bombarded daily with on the internet, on every platform. from images to words to emotions. When people type, they type with emotions sometimes. And that can be seen in how they type, or it can be seen and heard in their videos. And those things can actually cause a trigger effect. It could cause a person to change their opinions and views just by how you use your manners and how you use your voice. They might not be meaning to do it. You know, I get accused of being censoring myself all the time. In a sense, yes, I do. So I am because I'm being careful so I'm not coming off influencing others. I want people to have their own opinions, their own views, their own expressions. That's important to me. And it should be very important to you. So I'm constantly being aware of how I'm talking, how I'm using my words. Now, some topics, yes, I let my emotions run because they are topics that are really profound to me for some reason. One of the topics that I'm getting ready to type out for the magazine is very profound to me. It has, because I know the horror stories. I know people that went through that situation. And I see it popping up on other people's, other people are talking about it here, which I found odd because, it was one of the articles I read a couple weeks ago when I first decided I was going to do this. And I said I want to do an article on this, but I don't want to do a video. I want to do it in written form. And I've been, since then, taking notes and making, a rough draft of it. And come to find out, next month just happens to be the Missing Children's Observation Month, or Awareness Month. It's something I have been following. Something, when the whole Pizzagate thing came around, something that B. Rich pointed out. The most important thing out of all that was dealing with the missing children. Just not the missing children, the homeless problems we have. All those things compounded to the human trafficking, human sex trafficking. Which we've, over the past year and a half since Trump took office, we've seen and heard about the raids that have been taking place. But yet we don't hear no mainstream real coverage of it. And I find that disturbing because it is important. I watched a video today that K. Small mirrored from somebody else. And it was having to do with over in Syria and that area, what's going on over there with the refugees and the dispersion. That video was horrific. I mean, these cases aren't just happening here. They're happening all over the world. And there's been stings all over the world. But yet we don't see the awareness and observation. We don't see people stepping out, talking about it. And yes, I understand why, because those that do tend to get heavily censored. They don't want that. Because some of the, especially if you're using the images, showing some of the videos, it is horrific. Those stories are graphic. They should never happen in the world that we live in today. It kind of makes you disappointed in humanity that we've still come this far, but yet we still have this types of things happening in the world. Many people out there may have known someone that this has happened to. They just, because they weren't aware or observing, they didn't catch the signs. And the same thing, How many people have been caught up on the social media platform, drug into these type places, and abducted? There are signs. If you're aware, you can see a person's distraught or the change in them. From how they normally talk or normally type. I mean, I know a lot of people, when they hear awareness, observation, they think prepper, survivalist, military. No, it's everyday life. Everybody should be aware of their surroundings 24/7. And that don't mean just in your home and around the yard and town when you're in the car. It also means when you're on the internet. The internet is a far more dangerous tool than people understand. From the bombardment of information to the bombardment of imagery, to those that actually know how to use their voice, changing their tones, know how to influence just by talking in a certain way. If we are more aware of these things, we are more aware of how these things trigger us. I mean, if you were aware that these little emojis they give us, what did I do? Get disconnected? Nope. My awareness don't stop just because I'm in the house. It's just much like how I have to edit the magazine. As the publisher and producer of it, I also have to make sure everything's edited the best of my ability. I'm not great when it comes to grammar. We all know that. You see my ferocious spelling. And spell checker only works so far. But, it's those things when you got to sit there, reread, proofread, make sure everything is the way it's supposed to, the way it came out of your mind anyway. Because sometimes your mind runs faster than your fingers can type. So you pick up on the certain things to be aware, like, oh, and you notice by just seeing that you made a mistake, even though you really wasn't reading. We teach ourselves constantly how to develop that skill, better it, to where we're more knowledgeable of the things we're taking in. Because like I said, you're taking in way more than you actually mentally realize or acknowledge. You're taking in everything. There's some people out there just walking by a person can pick up on things. I mean, there's people like that. That's how attuned to themselves they are and attuned to their surroundings. But yet, they get on the internet and they ignore that. Then they get bombarded with so much stuff. I mean, I can't even sit here and name and list the things that I've seen that are meant to be trigger objects, that are meant to trigger a state, that are meant to mislead you or distract you into another section. It's one of my biggest issues with QAnon. It is a huge distraction. And it's full of triggers. It's child's play triggers at that. I mean, and people don't catch it. They don't understand what's taking place. And it's got to the point now where you can't even tell them. They don't get it. Right? But he's been right. Why is he right? Because he gave you a bunch of abbreviated letters that your own mind you, put a name to. That's the oldest trick in the book. And he or she or whoever it is getting thousands of people. You know, like I said, I've made my comments about that topic. Now, I think certain times there might be some topics that come out of that. They're good talking points, but they are nothing more than talking points. There is no fact to them. But they are good talking points to bring up awareness. See, awareness has a broad spectrum. There's how many events each month that are awareness month or awareness days or observation days. You know, why do we need one day for awareness to missing children? It should be every day. Why do we have one day to observe for our vets when we should be thankful and grateful every day? Same way with Mother's Day. We don't need one day to be blissful and blessed, to have a beautiful role model in our lives. It should be every day. And that's some of the psychological programming involved. They give you a day, so when that day comes around, which many of us seem to forget days in those things, so we only think about it when that day rolls around. Nobody's seen the trick of that. Why do we give days for these things when it should be every day on a lot of these things? All the days are a little bit different. We all know that. But how many has had the awareness to question why we have set days? Why isn't every day? Because most people get in that mindset, oh, this is today. We will remember it for a couple days. Most of us, it doesn't even affect us because we'll be working. It's not a holiday. And it's just another day. See the programming that's taking place? And when certain things are kept out of the mainstream or suppressed because they don't want it talked about or acknowledged, but yet, before I even started the magazine, I was already going to do an article on WordPress about the very subject of our homeless and missing children. Not even aware that they had a special day for it. I didn't know. Guess I wasn't that aware, was I? Until I observed it. I think you might see where I'm going with this. Because then we have some people that, for some odd reason, have that mindset. They got to see something. They got to observe it themselves before they believe it. And that is a very dangerous mindset. That's why we're so divided. That's why we can never take a stand on things before it gets out of hand. See, for one, you have to be aware that this is happening and that this is why it's happening. But for most, they got to see this happen before they become aware, and most of them won't even be aware then that they were duped from the beginning because they missed something. And it is. I pointed this out time after time. It is so hard. It is so easy. It's not hard. It's very easy to get misled or get misinformation off the internet. Because There is many views and opinions on subjects and topics. Sometimes, and I see it a lot on prepper channels and people that do it-yourself stuff or try to do instruction videos. People forget. To me, this is a golden rule. What are my golden rules? What works for you might not work for me because I'm different. Many of you have had years of experience on certain things. I don't have that experience yet. And I'm different. I do things differently. So when I show something, that's why I don't really like doing a lot of show videos, show you how to do things, because when you get the comments, oh, you didn't do that right, you could have done it this way. Well, one, thank you. I will try it your way. Because, hey, it might be easier. I might not have learned that yet. Or I've been doing it for so long that it is repetition, that it's the easiest way for me to do it. We're all different. We all find different ways to go about things and do things. We forget that each and every individual on this earth is unique and different. If we just remember that, we'd be less judgmental. We would be less likely to label them, put them in labels, categories. We forget that we're human. And humans will make mistakes. They will learn from them, hopefully. Some people don't learn from them. Sometimes some people have to make multiple mistakes before they learn. But that's that person. Until they reach that stage in life where they're tired of learning things the hard way, they're not going to change. And that's the other thing. Now, I can tell somebody till I'm blue in the face, until they're ready to change, let's use a drug addict. Until a drug addict is ready to change, he can take all the rehabilitation programs he wants. He can be locked up 20 times until he is tired, hits that digs his grave and hits the bottom and realizes this is what I want in my life. Until that person is ready to change, no change will ever happen. They may say I'm going to change, but until they reach that point, they won't change. And there's nothing any of us can do about it. Sometimes our job is just to be there, listen. Sometimes our job is to just give, give, a, give our little message and move on. One day they're going to encounter a situation where something we told them is going to come to mind. They're going to remember that conversation, and it's going to sink in. And guess what? That might have been all we were meant to do in that person's life. We were just meant to encounter that one time to give them that one message. Now you can start to see why, through observing and watching and awareness of things, why I don't care about numbers. I don't care if you like my videos or dislike them. In fact, if you dislike them, I'm more happier than I am if you like them. Why? Because I triggered you. I said something that was made you question something. Therefore, it makes me feel like I did my job. Yeah, I know. Screwed up thinking, right? Not really. I don't care how many subscribers, followers I got. Why? I learned something very valuable by having little. The quality of conversations that I get from time to time, interacting with my audience, that is more meaningful to me. I wouldn't get to enjoy that if I had 10,000, 1,000 members tuning in. I mean, that's only nice for the ego. Really, when you start caring about the numbers, that's your ego speaking. I'm aware of that. I understand that. I understand that the ego needs to be always kept in check. If you don't keep the ego in check, you get come down with what psychologists call megalomania or megalomaniac. which basically is a God complex. You're better than everybody else. You have to have all these numbers or you're nothing. Numbers mean nothing to me. And it shouldn't mean anything to you. Because the only thing it should mean that to you that eventually the people that are meant to hear your message will. The people that you're meant to interact with will show up in your chat one day and you will interact. But I watched this before I even started doing videos. I watched this on other channels. I'm not a big fan of having role models either. But I had watched some people that are put out awesome content. I've seen some mistakes that they made. They might not say they were mistakes. I don't know. To me, they were. To them, that might be the way, what works for them, and I respect that. You see how this works by being aware and observing things? You become more open to and understanding to other things, to how other people do things. You might not completely agree with them, because that's just not your way of doing it. Because maybe you've experienced something or learned something a little bit different. Because you could be wrong. Now, even I could be wrong. Maybe numbers mean everything. I know they don't, but I could be wrong. In this day and age, you're actually right. I would be wrong. Because this day and age, on these social platforms, the numbers mean everything. We're taught that these numbers mean everything. Yeah, no, I'm a rebel. Sorry. I don't normally follow the crowd. I'm not a follower either. But when you start breaking those cycles, those habits, you become more aware. You become aware, oh, this is actually working for this guy. What's he doing? What am I doing wrong? How's he reaching this specific audience? What's he using? Then you might see a few other things, and that's why I'm going to keep it honest. That's why I do not like Alex Jones. Cannot stand him. All the things he talks about, he should know better, but he uses them. He uses the very tools that he talks about. And for me, that's a big red flag. For me, he's no better than the people he talks about. Because he's using the same things, manipulating people in the same way. I could talk about what happened last week. Oh, how the people go back and forth. Why? That's why I've not talked about that little subject. I'm not going to, other than just, being aware, observing, watching how people just flop back and forth. How quick people are to turn. Nobody sat and asked the question, was it meant to happen that way? Or is it meant to play out that way? Or what? There's so many factors that fall into that. Honestly, it just shows how divided we are. But it also showed something that I was kind of happy to see. Yeah, figure that one out. I was actually happy to see that people weren't so stuck to that label and blinded by that label. To me, what took place last week, and all the things that were being posted talking about the flipped and floppy, I was happy to see it. It meant people weren't blinded by a label, that they were willing to call out BS when they seen it. They were pointing things out. But how many people followed up on that, researched it? Because in the end, we'll never know. seriously, some of my biggest fears when it comes to being aware is being aware of how addicted people get to a label. How they get it. It's like high school all over again. You gotta be popular. You gotta be in the popular crowd. And I dropped those games before high school. But yeah, we see them playing out every day. You gotta be one of the cool kids. You know who the cool kid is? The one that don't care. The one that don't put the labels on them. The one that doesn't categorize himself or herself with either group. That's the cool kid. That's the kid that's aware and awake. That's the kid that observes and sees people for what they really are. Where are those people at? Because this world needs more people like that. And there's people, then there are those people out there. I know, I've met them over the past few years. You know, just like calling people snowflakes. Wow, I guess we forgot what snowflake means. We forgot how unique a snowflake is. Because the snowflake is probably one of the most beautiful things in the world because everyone is unique. No two snowflakes are ever the same. Never have the same patterns. Yes, you can call me a geek if you want to. I do wear glasses. I guess I could categorize me that. And I do game from time to time. But yeah, I don't think I fit in the geeky category either. It's about being aware, understanding. Why did that term come about? Why use it? And why does it trigger so many people? They should be proud to be a snowflake. Because you're unique. Even though it's not meant that way. But for those that are aware and understand the terminology, the science behind it, study of it, we understand it. Shit, that's a compliment. But most people don't know that, so therefore they think it's an insult. Or they think they can use it as an insult to trigger somebody. And you see, that's what being aware of things is. And when you come across something that you have no knowledge of, you do a little research. Now you're making yourself aware of that knowledge. So next time you see it, you might catch it to where it's being used to mislead. Or it might be something very important that somebody else isn't talking about that needs to be talked about. Like I said, awareness and observation, it just isn't in the prepping community, in the survivalist communities, or the military. It's an everyday life, an everyday thing. It doesn't stop when we get home, because as soon as you go on the internet, you need to be, truthfully, in some cases, in most cases, probably more aware and observant than when you're driving down the road. Because now you're not dealing with the physical dangers. Now you're dealing with, I'd almost say, more spiritual, psychological. Because now you're dealing with information that is so abundant and in your face. Images are so vivid that's got so much meaning in them. And yes, people do know how to use them for just that purpose. They've been known how to use that before Disney. And Disney was the best at it, but so is every marketing and advertiser. I mean, the golden arches, I say that. What are you going to tell me? Yes, Mickey D's, McDonald's. They know the power of an image. The image becomes much like a symbol, which is nothing more than a ritual. You see the golden arches, you know that's McDonald's. And it goes much deeper than that. We're not going to get into that in this channel. But it does go much deeper than that. There is real dangers when it comes to imagery. Because you see what you want to see in most cases. But your mind, your subconscious sees everything. Everything that's put in that image, every little pixel, and it interprets it. Just like all the text you scroll through. Yes, you might be only reading a fraction of it, what you deem is important, but your subconscious is reading everything. Everything your eye sees, peripheral, even. The things that you don't even acknowledge mentally, consciously, your subconscious is filtering it all in. Same way when you're, even more so when you're watching videos. You're taking not only what you're seeing in the videos, but what you're hearing as well. All being filtered. Sometimes I wonder if that's not part of a grand theme of the grand weapon, the ultimate weapon, to bombard you with so much information that you can't really process it all. That the stuff that's slipping, the stuff that's meant to slip through is what's causing some of the major issues we're having today. Some of the major divisions. Because there's so much. And if you're not aware of these things, it's just going unfiltered. That's actually the real importance of being aware, of awareness, being self-aware. When you become aware of something, it no longer goes unfiltered. Now, something like that will process through, and hey, warning bells will start sounding, or spidey sense, whatever you want to call it. The Holy Ghost, even, Spirit speaking to you. You can call it whatever we want. But you need to learn to listen to yourself. Listen to your emotions, your body, how things make you feel. Because once you become aware of something, when you, those that listen to this will become aware, because what I've done, in a sense, I've planted a seed. I've given you information to make you aware. Therefore, I've given you a trigger. Yes, there is positive triggers. Because now, because of what you've heard, some of that information will no longer slide through the cracks and go unfiltered. It'll make you aware. Something you might catch, and it's like, oh, you'll feel that trigger, whatever it is. Everybody's unique and different. Everybody has different ways to interpret things, feel things, see things. I don't know what yours is. I know what mine are. And you'll come onto a realization that that was meant to mislead you, or that wasn't truthful, or that was meant to manipulate you. That's how important of being attuned to yourself, listening to yourself, and fully aware. And when I say fully, we're never truly fully aware. It's like we're never truly awake. Why? Because we haven't experienced everything. I think there was only one person to ever walk this earth that was truly, fully aware. And that was King Solomon. Should read, for the Christians out there, reread For anybody out there, go pick up a Bible and then read Ecclesiastes. You want to know what really got me to wake up? It was Ecclesiastes. And, I'll tell you, most people know I'm not a Christian. But that's what awoke me. One verse that, honestly, to me, made no sense, but made me question everything. I believe it was Ecclesiastes 1:9, where it talks about what has been, will be, what will be has been, and there's nothing new under the sun, or something like that. Don't quote me. That was the one thing that really triggered me and really started to make me question everything. It was my starting point. That was back when I was 9 years old. But even then, I might have thought I was awake. Thought I knew it. Oh, I didn't. I was still questioning things. I was still experiencing things. There were still things in life that I had yet to experience. So, even at the age of 40, there's things I have not experienced. So therefore, there's things that I'm still not aware of. There's things I'm not fully awake to. And that won't be until I experience them or till I question new things. We're learning every day. And I think so many people forget about that. They think we reach this old, wise age. Yes, we're wise because we've experienced things the older we get. We're knowledgeable when we're younger. We're not experienced. And when we reach the ripe, whatever that age may be, I'm still young. I'm still knowledgeable. I'm wise in many things, but yet there's still so much more I haven't experienced or haven't learned. But I'm not blind to that fact. And I understand that. You know, that's also part of being aware. Yes, this world is a crazy place full of crazy things. Things that sometimes just make absolutely no sense. I mean, why? This is the 20, we're in 2018. Why are we still seeing the same games play out that's played out centuries ago? Why are we seeing the same problems? Why hasn't humanity understood and got the picture yet? Fact is, nobody has the answer for that. I mean, you'd think over the years we'd learn. Or, is it as Solomon said, what has been will be, what will be has been. And there's nothing new under the sun. The cycle keeps repeating itself. Well, I don't mean to be quoting scripture or being biblical here, but it's something that my whole life, no matter where my path is taking me, that one thing has always been with me. It's been a part of my foundation. It is what makes me question everything. What makes me not scared to experience new things, other ideas, other views and beliefs and practices. Why? Because I've learned so much from it. And I've seen so much now of various other aspects that are playing out right before your eyes. These very tools being used to manipulate you, control you, enslave you on such a broad spectrum. Those are the things I'm tired of. Yes, I'm tired of all the division, but the division has a root source. Where's that root source? What's causing it? Everybody's got to have a boogeyman. While we're talking about observation and awareness, why is it we always have to have a boogeyman? We always have to have that one thing or person or country to blame. Why are we even blaming? So when we start blaming what? Oh yes, that's right. I'm going to use that word again. Labels. And we're putting everybody in that category of that label as the boogeyman. When the fact is, oh yes, I'm going to use my other favorite word. It's just a bunch of bad apples. And it's actually not a bunch, it's just a few bad apples. But when you put bad apples in a bushel, what happens? Or in a basket? Yes, they will rot the rest of the fruit. Doesn't mean the rest of the fruit's to blame. No, it's the bad apple to blame. But that one bad apple is the reason the rest of the stuff's being blamed, why the rest becomes rotten. You don't blame the good fruit, because every label has their good fruit. You need to observe, watch, find those bad apples, point the bad apples out, not the labels. Or else we just keep repeating the cycle. And it's a vicious cycle. One of those cycles that's meant to ensnare and divide. You know, and you catch, we have to use the label games as well, just to blame individuals and groups. I mean, sometimes we find the face of the real bad apple. But that's just one of the many faces. And sometimes the face that you find isn't nothing more than a puppet themselves. Somebody else is pulling their strings. No matter how much influence, power they have, or money, or we want to call them elite, more than likely somebody else is pulling their strings. They're just a perfect fall guy. Perfect person to take all the blame. And it's quite frankly the truth. You start learning these things through awareness and observing. And it's something that each of you have to find your own ways of doing. Finding your own ways to recognizing the things that trigger. Start learning how to use triggers for betterment. Because there is a good form of a trigger. Something that warns you is a good trigger. It can be an object, it can be a word, it can be just, you guys, wait for it, yes. Words have energy behind them. It could be the energy coming off the words or the emotion of that person that wrote what they wrote imprinted onto it. I know, really for another channel, but when you start becoming aware and start listening to yourself, you will see that. You will pick that up. You might not understand it. You might not grasp it at that time, because you might not be ready to understand that or grasp it. Now, we all learn things at a different level. We all are at different stages of learning. You might be at a point of time in your life that you're just not ready for that, and that's understandable. And you may never be ready for that. That's the other thing that needs to be pointed out. You know, some people may never break that cycle of believing everything they see or everything they see come from one source that they've learned to trust. They might not ever want to believe that that person is actually manipulating them. And there's nothing, it goes back to what I said about change. There's nothing you can do about it other than make them aware and not worth the further arguments. And maybe that was your only job, was to give that person that one little message, whatever it may be, and move on. I said, even on the internet and social media platforms, you need to be aware, you need to observe, and you need to listen to yourself. That's the important part. But since I've been talking about information overload, I'm going to end this video just over a little hour long, so I don't information overload you guys. Because I am kind of guilty at that from time to time. Plus, what's up, Free? Let's just get ready to wrap it up. But like I said, I look forward to doing more podcasts like this. Like I said, just because I'm working on a magazine, these podcasts aren't going anywhere. Going nowhere. I enjoy doing these too much, and I will keep these topics separate from whatever I put in the magazine and from what other people's going to be sharing, which for those that I've reached out to and got back with me, thank you. Like I said, it's a new project. It's the evolution of Sons and Daughters of Liberty. It's more information that we're going to be able to talk about. More people that we're hoping to be able to bring in. People that are tired of the censorship. And we want to be able to still voice our opinion, bring you our stories, these stories or articles that are going on. And I know of a place where it can be done, and I know how to do it. Sometimes we might take endeavors that weren't meant to excel the first time around. Even though my first magazine, I do know that it was a great success. But it came down to just me and another person every month doing it, and our contributors slowly started to fade off, and it just got too much. But it always nagged us. We always wanted to bring the magazine back. That goes back to listening to yourself. It also goes to understanding that you'll know when the right time is to do something. Like me, I've been thinking about it for 6 months now. A little bit longer than 6 months. I think I first mentioned it about a year ago when I was at my friend's house. I went down to North Carolina. That I had thought about doing it for Sons and Daughters of Liberty. Then, it was last Thursday actually, I think. I just sat down at the computer. I don't know, for some odd reason, just opened up Google Docs and just started working on it, laying out the rough draft format of it. And from there, it's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's time. That's being aware. That's listening to yourself, knowing when it's time to do something. When we each can learn how to do that, we'll start seeing change. We'll start seeing these divisions and labels and invisible walls we put up that help divide us come down. We'll start bridging those gaps once more. You know. So I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your week. I'm sure I'll be doing another video sometime this week. I haven't decided when. Like I said, you guys pretty much have figured out I go off feel. If I feel like doing a video or something pops in my head that I want to talk about, I jump on. I think it's, I don't know, for me that's more raw and unfiltered that way. And it feels a lot more enjoyable when I do it that way. So, like I said, awareness and observation. And realizing we're always learning and evolving. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you on the next one. Good night, everyone.